you tried, you can't tickle your toe. You just can't, it's not funny. It doesn't, but as soon as someone else goes, boop, 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 right? And so these are just great examples of what it sort of like, we were made in the Trinity of God. We were designed to both be giving and receiving constantly in this dance of mutual giving and receiving. And in that dance, we are better equipped, comforted, and cared for in the presence of another than we can do for ourselves. So we look at our culture, right? This is part of why we have job security. Our culture is masterful at self-soothing. We have found so many ways. Our economy, honestly, is probably built on an economy of self-soothing. Shopping, eating, exercise, drinking, pornography. We go on and on. We could probably almost take the whole diagnostic manual and boil it down to much of it being about self-soothing behaviors. Behaviors that we take on to soothe ourselves in the absence of someone doing that effectively for us. It's like we eat candy. We find temporary solutions to our emotional problems, and then our emotional problems just get worse. It's a cycle, right? If I drink too much, then I feel horrible about drinking too much. I'm a horrible person, so I drink more. And then I feel worse and worse, and then I drink more and more. And so the temporary solutions, their self-soothing solutions, always create worse problems that need more self-soothing. So it comes to a place where you need help. You end up where you should have started, which is dependent upon other people. Right? You should have started with a dependency, but maybe that person wasn't safe to depend on, but there wasn't really anyone there to be able to depend on, or you didn't have a history of being able to depend on anyone very well, and so you just don't have that particular love reflex in you to depend. It's like super scary. Even if they have an invitation for you to depend on them, you don't want to do it because culture also doesn't tell you to, particularly for men in our culture. Men in our culture, man, you don't make it through junior high by depending on the other people, right? You're not in the locker room going after a football game, I was really hurt when that guy hit me. And I just could really use a hug right now. Right? That's just not going to happen. Nobody's talking about that. You know, but junior high, for girls, for the most part, you make it to junior high without doing that. Right? All talking, you're like, hey, did that? No, it's okay. And all that goes on. And so our culture really is horrible at supporting men to be securely attached. What's really interesting, because part of the attraction that some women have to men is the strength that appears to come with being insecurely attached. Because securely attached men can be very strong, but they also can be very vulnerable and can be very broken. My wife's favorite character in the whole history of television, the most secure person that she's ever seen, and she wishes I was him every day of our entire marriage. It's Charles Ingalls. From Little House on the Prairie. Right? How many of you guys have seen Charles Ingalls' Little House on the Prairie? If you have not, you need to go watch Charles Ingalls. He's like the perfect balance between strong and vulnerable. One minute he's crying, next minute he's wrestling bears. Right? So he's doing both of these things, and it's like my wife would watch this and she'd be like, oh, I just love Charles. Look how tender he is with his wife, and he wrestles bears, and he's plowing fields, but he'll pause to be with his children. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is really early on in our marriage. I'm like, I cannot be Charles Ingalls. Could he be a horse? So it's kind of like that balance that's beautiful and within men. And so, but so much of our culture is perpetuated. Strength is appearing one way, and it's very independent, very unhealthy independent. And so there's a sense that I need to be strong, and that for me to need something from my partner is weak. It's I remember when I was in college. You know, those couples would walk around with their arms around each other all the time. Oh gosh, it'd be crazy. We call them the Velcro couples. Right? They walk by and we'd say things under our breath, like, gross, get a room, all that kind of stuff. And so, only to come to find out later, they're probably more securely attached than we were, because we're making fun of them. Now, there might have been some of their own issues, where they had held on to each other all the time. But it's out of this state of dependency that we actually become independent. And I think we do value independency, because independency can be very good. But if independency precedes dependency, then it's dysfunctional independency. Independency comes from a state of being connected to another. It's from that state of being connected to another in a deep, intimate way that you can then launch and be free to be independent, knowing that that person is going to be there for you. So you can go further take more risks. You can do a lot more in life because you know this person is going to be a stable place in which you can return to. And so people that say, well, I got to get my act together before I get in relationships. It's like, no, you get in relationships to get your act together. Right? You don't be perfect to be in a relationship. You get in that relationship and you figure out how to wrestle in that relationship until you find a place that there's a secure base for you so you can leave and you get that independency out of dependence. Anything you want to add to that? Make sense? Yeah. She's already drinking Kool-Aid.
Would it be a romantic relationship or any relationship, like friendship, parent?
Yeah. It's mostly, well, independence mostly comes out of those primary attachment relationships. So I'll talk about what those are. The true sense of independence comes out of those. Some people can be surrogates, aunts, uncles, neighbors, special people in your life can be surrogates, particularly in the absence of a secure attachment figure. You can kind of, you'll grab onto anything. Even really dysfunctional things can become surrogates. They play similar functions for you. I'll give you a quick example of this. One of the most common surrogate attachment figures, that's the most destructive, is pornography images. Because pornography images communicate acceptance. They're mood altering, right? High levels of acceptance and comfort. Even though they're not real, even though they're not really looking at you, they're acting as if you're the most amazing thing in the world. And so there's a real high correlation between people who are insecurely attached to people that are addicted to pornography. Very high correlation between sexual addicts and insecure attachment. And so, and we've always thought that sexual addiction was really much more about, perversion and sexuality, and it's come to find out it's much more about intimacy. It's much more about the inability to be able to create sustained intimacy. And so it's just a surrogate. All these images are surrogate. I was working with one guy at one point, and he was trying to get off his pornography, and he was engaged, and about to get married, and of course that was a real threat to the relationship. And so I asked the fiance to leave the room, and I said, what's going on inside you? It seems like it's really difficult to kind of emotionally engage in this relationship with your fiance. And surprisingly, he says to me, well, I'm having a hard time disconnecting from the pornography images to connect to my fiance. He says, I would never tell her that, but I'm grieving the loss. Now, really, if you were the fiance and you heard that, you'd slap him, right? I'm grieving the loss of this pornography image. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up writing a letter of goodbye to his pornography image. And he had one gal in particular they looked at a lot. And so he even had a name. So he wrote this letter. And as he wrote this letter, he cried. Because this wasn't just about sex. This was about connection. As distorted and as sick as it was, right, he really truly felt a sense of bond, probably even a chemical bond, to this particular pornography image. And so he had to go through a similar process of grieving the loss of the pornography image in order to be able to connect to his fiance. It was crazy. And he did it. He cried and he sobbed. And he'd not read his letter to her, he read it to me, right? Because I knew it would just be too much for him to handle. And so that's just one example of like a surrogate, right? This became a surrogate for him. And so in the absence of secure attachment, we will get very creative around finding surrogates. Okay.
So John Bowlby, so attachment is the result of an innate and a related human predisposition for infants to seek attention from adults. So that's the childhood version. The primary caregiver will call the PCG from here moving forward. Because most often they're mothers, part of biological basis of survival. So this is interesting. Father, mother, primary attachment figures. It is very common for children to attach to their parents in different ways, based upon the primary function of that parent. And I'll describe to you what that means in a minute. Attachment is an anchor that allows a child to explore the world. So how many of you guys have played tag? You ever played tag? As a kid, come on, right? Almost everyone. Okay, if you haven't played tag or met Charles Ingalls, then you're in trouble. Preferably play tag and watch it at the same time. Or play tag with Charles Ingalls. So when you play tag, if you weren't the fastest kid on the playground, you were the one that sort of like hovered around the base. People come tag, you don't touch the base. I'm still in. Yeah. I'm number one, right? And the kids that were really, really fast, like zipping around, and you were like, oh, I wish I could run faster, but I can still stay in the game if I stay close to the base. Right? The home base is the place that was safe. You could leave because you knew you had a place to home. But if someone took the home base away from you, what would happen? Would you be enjoying the game of tag? No. You wouldn't, because you knew in a flat second you'd be out. And so this base becomes the safe haven, becomes the anchor in which the child and the partner explores their world. I can leave the base because I know it's stable and it'll be there when I come back. It's when the base is sometimes there or not there at all. We'll talk about what that means from a parental perspective, from a spouse perspective, that we begin to act differently. We begin to engage with our world in a different way. So not only does it impact the couple relationship or the parent-child relationship, it impacts the way we relate to our world. When we leave the base, we approach the world in a little different way. Disturbance and disruption of initial attachment bond between the child and PCG renders person insecure as an adult. So everyone who has disruption in this bond, we can pretty much say about everyone, leaves and they have it insecure. They're insecure as an adult. Now they may not look insecure, but they're insecure as an adult. I would love to see Trump's family board. I would love to see, and to be honest, this isn't just picking on Trump, this is any politician. Right? Most people that survive politics probably have a really bad attachment history. And I don't think you can do some things that they do without disconnecting yourself to a degree that's unhealthy. Right? So, and then the ones that are probably really securely attached are the ones that'll never make it. Because they wouldn't do the right things or say the right things that people want to hear in order to be. So we'll just have to take what we get. Right? So what is attachment? Well, humans, especially infants, rely on attachment figures for these core needs. Protection, comfort, is what is left out. I don't know why it's left out. Protection, comfort, acceptance, and overall emotional regulation. And this is also a cradle to grave. Acceptance, comfort, protection, and emotional regulation. And when we get into the EFT stuff, emotion focus therapy stuff, we'll see how emotion primes the call for these attachment needs. Emotion is the call for this attachment is being threatened. Come meet this attachment. So these are from the cradle to grave: protection, comfort, acceptance, and emotional regulation. Attachment behavioral system is an evolved innate proximity regulator. So basically, you have this little beacon on the top of your head, and when you're born, you have this little beacon, and it's very aware of how distant or how close your attachment figure is to you. And so as soon as you sense that they are moving away from you, both physically or emotionally, this beacon goes off. When the beacon goes off, you have an attachment behavioral sequence, which we'll talk about tonight, that kicks in certain behaviors that will pull the proximity figure back into a level of distance that you're comfortable with. Okay, so it's constantly monitoring proximity. In fact, the attachment system is not always active. It is only active when the proximity gets too far away, right? Or there's a threat that engages the monitoring of proximity to pull the person close. Okay? Whoops. Okay. When threats abate, the other behavioral systems other than attachment can be activated. The humans, the self has got several systems that operate, and scientists talk about these systems because they can explain them. Attachment is only one system. We have a sexual system. We have a caregiving system. We have an exploration system, an affiliation system. So we have lots of different systems. And one thing that will happen is when the attachment system is deactivated, all these other systems will kick in. But when the attachment system is activated, all other systems shut down. So the attachment system trumps all the other systems. So when someone's feeling insecurely attached, do you think they have a desire to be sexual? The sexual system is not activated. Not a healthy sexual system isn't activated. Arousal can be activated, but not a healthy sexual system can be activated outside of it. So what they found out with kids especially is that kids that were insecurely attached were not performed near as well in school. They weren't as creative, they didn't score as well on exams, scored lower on IQ tests. They really struggled. They struggled with social engagement, social interaction, with creativity. So they really had a problem. They were developmentally delayed because of their insecure attachment, and because their exploratory system would not be activated because the attachment system is constantly activated. They're constantly in a state of threat. And when you're in a state of threat, you're wired for war, and when you're in war, you don't go around playing with toys, right? You don't go around picking up blocks and engaging with other children when you're wired for war. And of course, this is sort of extreme, and there's a lot of kids that will engage in that type of thing. And then remember, this is all on a continuum. And so,